As a child growing up, I always holidayed here at Kuratau. It was always my dream to one day build a holiday home here of my own. And a couple of years ago, in just 100 days, I did. We saw the section, and then we never really stopped. But with only 100 days to complete it, we're starting. Even for me, with years of experience, nothing ran smoothly. The blockwork is too wide to fit the fireplace. And with plenty of dramas...
We're out of cladding.
Bloody hell. Just one more thing. But the pain was worth it. Well, we're done, and it's fantastic. Yeah, I'd definitely do this again. I love it. And now I'm going to help my friends Alex and Rachel attempt a massive renovation on a grand scale by gutting their 85-year-old home and adding a second story.
I'd like it to stay pretty, obviously colonial.
We're going to half destroy this house and take it back to its roots.
That's complete open plan living.
With a tight budget and only 100 days to build, there is no room for error.
Council are telling us we don't have any resource consent, which means there's not going to be any concrete pour because it's like 3:30 on the Friday and that's all meant to happen on Monday.
Welcome to the 100-day renovation.
Hey, 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 I'm going up straight to the top, walking out with my head up high. Hey, 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 moving on to a brand new place, and now it's here in the blink of an eye. Hey, 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 you can't stop me now, moving fast, going everywhere I wanted to be. Hey, 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 and now I'm here today with made for me. Yeah, I was born, I was born to be free.
New Zealand has a long tradition of the batch, a holiday home away from home. For many years, I holidayed here at Kuratau at my aunt and uncle's place, and then I decided to build one for my family. But with ever-expanding Auckland, what were holiday homes are becoming residential, and generations of people are taking these tiny homes and turning them into properties of their dreams. And that's exactly what my friends Alex Breingan and Rachel Hart bought 8 years ago on the Hibiscus coast. Originally from Great Britain, they holidayed in New Zealand in 2002 and immediately fell in love with the country, moving to Auckland within 6 months of their first visit. 8 years ago, they moved into their Hibiscus coast home with their 2 children, Max and Macy.
Well, the house is so lovely. I mean, it's a 1930s house. It's got all that character. Yeah. I want to keep that character, but we need the space. So we could either build out, or we could build up. And we've talked about other options. We've talked about moving, although it was never really an option.
Well, no, because a bigger house where we are, within our immediate vicinity, would be too expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to stay where we are, stay in our house.
Yeah, because we've got the location and the house is so close to all of it.
Exactly.
But...
I mean, we've been here 8 years now, and it's just the kids are getting bigger, and...
Yeah, schools and sports and all these things that they do. We don't really want to go somewhere else.
Our whole life's here.
Yeah.
Something that crosses my mind is, do we stay in the house during a renovation, or do we move out? Which would be the easier option.
It might depend how much we actually do.
Yeah, that's true. We can't afford a rental, so
no, exactly.
we've got to stay in the area for school and work, so...
Yeah.
OK, I think we're going to have to stay put.
While it's been on Rachel and Alex's to-do list for a number of years, and now that Max and Macy are teenagers, and with Alex and Rachel's business roles becoming increasingly busy, they need the room more than ever. But until very recently, Rachel had been too sick to even contemplate such a major renovation.
I've had a lot of serious health issues. I've had major spine surgeries. I haven't always been able to walk too well the last few years. I've had emergency bowel surgeries that have saved my life, and it's just not something we've been able to consider. So I kind of think, why not? With everything that happens in life, let's just do it. Let's just bite the bullet and do it and get the family home that we want.
Currently, the house is a mixture of the original 1930s cottage and an extension completed 20 years ago. The original building sits at the front of the house, where the bedrooms and lounge area are situated, while the newer renovation extends out the back with their open-plan kitchen, dining area and den. The distinct difference between the two parts of the house is something that both Alex and Rachel would like to fix.
It's a really quaint 1930s cottage, and over the years it's been added to, and there's been various renovations to make it what it is today. And the most recent one was about 20 years ago. That's when I think a lot of the character was kind of ripped out of the house. So what we want to do is reinstate that missing character.
Want to keep the colonial feel that it had originally.
Yeah.
Sort of make it sympathetic to what it once was, and but also bring it up to date.
I'm going to go and have a chat with Alex and basically have a chat about what options are. The size of the property is not huge, so going out might be possible to a small scale, but I don't think they'd ever achieve all that they actually want. And so I'm picking it's going up as the option. I've had a lot of thoughts. Anything you've thought about?
We know that we want to actually add a room upstairs. We're going to do master bedroom for us.
Great, yeah.
Ensuite.
Yep.
A decent-sized walk-in wardrobe.
Yep.
The ensuite. Maybe an office, because at the moment we work in the kitchen or, you know, in the garage.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, if you've got the opportunity, because an office doesn't have to be huge. So if you can find the space for it upstairs, that's a great idea. Yeah, I agree. So you need to find an architect to start drawing up plans, huh?
Yeah, that was my question, because I've never done this. But you have.
Yeah.
So do we find an architect and
I think you want
what happens?
to write down exactly what you do and don't want from it. You've got your idea of what you want. You know how you want to do it. You know that you want it to tie in and look right. So you need to take those points to an architect that you like and can work with. Get some ideas, get some prices, how much to do the work. That's a good idea. And that'll give you your start points. There's a simple structure to follow, and the more planning we do, the less surprises there'll be long term, and the more enjoyable this will be for you and the family.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cinch for them when they get to the architect to start drawing things up, because they've actually sat down and talked. They've lived in the environment for a long time now, really, so I think that's really helped with them firm up what they want out of this added space. They're planned, they're concise, and that part of the process is going to be very smooth and should run quite quickly. And I'm right. Within a few weeks, Alex and Rachel hire an architect, looking to start the renovation during the coming summer. The space for the staircase for the second floor will remove the hall cupboards, part of Max's room and part of the ensuite. And they will also update the main bathroom at the same time. As Alex and Rachel will move upstairs, Macy will move into their room, while Max will have her larger room at the rear of the house. The kitchen, dining area, den and lounge will all remain untouched. With the plans almost finalised, it seems to be running smoothly, but then Alex receives news that will delay any plans.
Cool. Well, have a good weekend. See you Monday, yeah? I've just got off the phone to our architect. Originally, he was advised by the council that we wouldn't need resource consent. We'd need building consent, but not resource consent, because the house is on the cusp of the inundation zone, which meant that we probably wouldn't need it. He's just been told, now that we've put in for the building consent, that we do need resource consent.
If the geotechnical report comes back saying the land underneath won't support the second story, they will have to radically change their plans. And with Rachel in hospital for spine surgery, it's an added stress Alex could do without.
It's a bit of a kick in the teeth because Rachel's really sick, she's in hospital, so the kids are worried, I'm worried. Could kind of do without this at this time. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, oh, is the project even going to happen? Can we even be bothered with it right now because of everything else that's going on? I guess try and be positive and look to the future, but right now, it's just really tough.
Company director Alex and food blogger Rachel want to create their dream home by adding a second story to their 1930s Hibiscus Coast house. But they've been told that the ground underneath the house may not be strong enough, and they will need a geotechnical report to know for sure. With Rachel seriously ill, the news has come at the worst time.
Rachel's really sick, she's in hospital, so the kids are worried, I'm worried. Could kind of do without this at this time. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, oh, is the project even going to happen? Can we even be bothered with it right now because of everything else that's going on? But try and be positive and look to the future, but right now, it's just really tough.
With the renovation hanging in the balance, Alex and I meet to discuss their options.
We have this,
It looks really good. I really like it because we're still going to have that Emperor cowl of yours, which I think is a really cool feature.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Out the front, it's nice.
That was really important to us. We wanted it to look as much as possible like it's always been there.
Nice.
So then when we look at the floor plan, because that actually starts to tell us the whole story, you can see where the stairwell is from downstairs. So we lose some cupboards and space like that, but we will gain some back underneath that stairwell.
Sure.
So upstairs, master bedroom, so a nice sized room. We've got the office at the front, which is what we wanted for Rach.
It's bigger now.
Yeah.
Because you've extended it down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the walk-in wardrobe is actually almost twice as big as it was in our original plan.
It was only like 1.6 wide. Now it's like it's 2.6.
Yeah.
So that means you've got decent walkway space with.
Yeah, because otherwise it was just a corridor with some clothes racks on the side. You know, it wasn't worth doing. And that's also meant we've got a bit more space in that ensuite.
You can never have enough space in the ensuite. I love it. One thing I particularly like, I love this little walk through here. It's a nice little feature.
We've been really lucky with a great architect and getting some really good drawings done. So we're good to go, but we're going to need to get resource consent, which we're hoping we wouldn't need to get because it's going to be extra cost. And I'm talking, tens of thousands of dollars to get to that point. Part of that cost is a geotech report from an engineer who will come around and dig down, bore some holes to find out what is actually down there. We know it's sand, but how compact is that sand? And hopefully it's going to be a combination of more and wider footings just to spread that load. The worst case scenario really would be they'd have to cut a side of the house out, drive a pile driving machine in there to put those big timber piles down, and they can go down meters. So my concern is that that's going to make it too expensive, or the report's going to come back and they say you can't actually do what you want to do. You're going to have to extend it out, which is going to be hard. We're not doing that for a reason, or we actually flag the project.
To understand the issues they're facing, you have to go back almost 100 years to when the house was first built as a small holiday home. For much of the 20th century, the Hibiscus Coast was considered a holiday destination, and even after the Harbour Bridge was opened in 1959, it remained a sleepy holiday spot.
In fact, the 1966 Encyclopedia of New Zealand states that the Whangaproa Peninsula was for retirees and holidaymakers.
It wasn't until the motorway was extended to the Hibiscus Coast in 1994 that it became residential, and the original cottages like Alex and Rachel's were turned into homes.
And that's when Whangaproa's geological structure becomes so important. The land around Whangaproa is made up of sedimentary rock, large cliffs, and sandy beaches like this one. Fantastic if you're looking for somewhere to holiday, but should you want to build, it can cause a few problems.
If you've built on top of the cliff, it's likely you'll have to strengthen the cliff face, as the sedimentary rock can easily erode and crumble away.
And if you're like Alex and Rachel and you're building on the flat, a stone's throw from the beach, well, you're building on this. Alex and Rachel's place. We're going to do a little demonstration here to show you how it works. All it takes is one fish tank, some sand, and some Lego. Fun, I know. Okay, so what we've got here is a single-story house sitting on top of an alluvial base, which is basically stuff that's ground down out of rivers and the like, which is what Alex and Rachel's property is actually currently built on. Now, if it does not have a solid base below it, this is what's going to happen. Take our single-story house, remove the roof, pop on a second story, and push. And it settles down into the ground. So the big problem really is that should the geotech report come back and say there's not a solid base underneath the house, which, to be honest, I'm expecting they're going to, we're going to have a problem-solving issue. Do we bring piles in and try and ram them through the house? No. I mean, that's just totally impractical. So the option they kind of going to have up their sleeve is to build larger, shallower pads underneath the house. And how those would work, and really this is the option, is to the base of the house, we add in pads to disperse the weight. House goes back in place, second story goes on top, roof goes back on, like so, and now if I push down, the house doesn't move. Effectively, all we've done is displace the load of the house out across the surface of the ground. A clever, quick, and smart solution.
With the geotechnical report and resource consent costing an extra $9,000 without any guarantees they can build, it's now just a waiting game until the engineer comes back with the report.
Something you've always got to think about and is often forgotten is before you start building, there's a whole heap of costs that have got to be covered. You've got everything running from getting the architect, council consents, permits required. So a lot of extra costs, and you can outlay 30 grand easily before you even start the process. So remember to factor that into your budgets.
3 weeks later, the geotechnical report is back, and Alex asked friend and builder Kelsey to come along to hear the verdict. With Rachel at home but still seriously ill, Alex hopes it's good news.
We've got the hills around us, so the biggest risk with an area that's so flat is that we're building on alluvium or something that's not suitable. For this house, luckily, we were able to come in and determine that the soil is usable. It can give us strength. In this case, you weren't able to go deeper and rely on anything for skin friction because you can see it's impossible to get in there. So we changed the foundations to suit that. We went wider and bigger.
The great news is the geotech report has come back as a pass, which is fantastic. It means that whatever's underneath the house is strong enough to support us essentially putting a second house on top of our house. It means we can actually go ahead with the project. Rachel's on the mend, so it's just good news all around, really.
Food blogger Rachel Hart and her husband Alex Breingan have just been given the go-ahead for a major renovation for their 1930s home in the Hibiscus Coast, and that the land beneath their house will be able to support the weight of a second story. For Rachel, who has spent the last 3 months recovering from a number of surgeries, it's great news to start the summer with.
Health-wise, been to hell and back and spent a lot of time in hospital, so this is fantastic. We're now able to go ahead and apply for resource consent, which is brilliant, and it's like, oh, finally, sort of weight off my shoulders. Good news.
The finalised plans for the house start with the foundations, with 17 concrete and steel footings to be added.
Because of the weakened soil underneath, they will have to be shallow and wide to help spread the weight of the second story, with steel framing then added within the walls of the current house. On top of this, steel beams will be welded to the frame to carry the weight of the second floor.
Storage is always a big consideration. The new staircase to get to upstairs takes out a chunk of Max's old bedroom, and it also removes some of the storage in the area. Not to worry though, because underneath the new staircase is going to be plenty of new storage.
On the second floor, Alex and Rachel will build a new master bedroom, large walk-in wardrobe and ensuite bathroom, as well as having an office for Rachel that faces the front of the house.
The ultimate goal is to return the house to its 1930s glory. To do that, with the new build section, they're going to have to get matching weatherboards, matching roof tiles, and match the shutters from downstairs, the external ones, and transfer them to the top story, all the while creating a modern interior inside. It sits perfectly above the old house, and I think that's the key. It's not always just about the interior layout, it is how it is going to fit on the property and look like it's meant to be there. And I think this has been achieved both through the shape and the outline of what's going upstairs and the continuity of materials, and that sort of attention to detail is going to give Alex and Rachel the result that they want.
Alex and Rachel apply for resource consent, but with a limited budget, they will have only 100 days to build, something I'm very familiar with.
It's nice that we get to sit down and have this little chat. Yeah. I look forward to helping out, following along with you. Okay, so what about budget?
I've got a gut feeling, which is
Scary.
yeah, based on a certain amount of experience of doing some decent projects.
Yep.
Sticking to it's going to be the trick, isn't it? Which is probably your
Yes,
skill.
I think, you know, not being funny, I think I will be better and I'll be the one to keep us to budget as close as we can be.
With regards to costings and bits and pieces, thought about a quantity surveyor maybe?
No, actually.
Okay, so quantity surveyor is going to cost the job. So you know when you get your concept drawings through, you can actually take those to them. They can give you an estimate based off that of what the project's actually going to cost. And they can also do bill payments and help manage that side of the process for you.
I kind of like it. It can kind of keep you separate slightly from the contractors working on the job, and it just allows it to flow organically. But also, you know, how you're going and what your projected bills are for the next month. One thing they don't do is project manage.
Okay.
Any ideas about project management?
Yeah, we thought about it, and we'll probably share it.
Yes, that's our idea. Not sure what you'd think about this.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You need to make sure the communication is very strong.
Yeah.
Not like relationship communication,
Yeah.
but building communication. So if the builder talks to you, Rach, and says, oh, hey, blah, 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 and you go, oh, yeah, do that, that, and that, and I need this,
Yeah.
and Alex doesn't know about it, but Alex is there for the next 2 days, and he goes, oh, what do you mean I was meant to come pick up nails?
Yeah.
So as long as you keep that communication, and you probably want someone to be slightly more lead, maybe a 60-40 share,
Sure.
you know?
Okay.
I'm staring at you, Rachel.
We're all thinking it. Hamish, I think you're enjoying this.
Oh, I'm enjoying this.
Look,
I'm enjoying
like,
this immensely.
I wanted to catch up and tell you about our plans
I
just...
am excited for you.
I am noticing your stress level right now compared to when you were doing this.
I'm pretty chilled now. That's really good. Yeah. Which is kind of why I understand where it's going to come, you know, and you don't see it coming, and little problems. Which are actually relatively easy to solve if you step back, can feel like majors. You know, I have things like we had trouble with the fire. We got built with concrete and we had to concrete sewer it afterwards. That was a special occasion. Now, I don't even worry about that. There was a ding, a tiny ding taken out of one of the concrete blocks. And I was stressing because that was going to ruin my look. I couldn't even tell you where that was now.
Wow.
And people think that it's this monumental task, but you're only talking about a few months, 100 days.
Yeah. But it's nothing in the scheme of things. In the scheme of things in a year, it's nothing.
It's tiny, it's a tiny amount of it.
I think that's a really good point, though, because I like to control things, or I like to be on top of things and manage projects and things like that. And I think it's important to remember, and you might need to remind me of this in months to come, that what seems important at the time or something we're stressed about that changes in the build or goes wrong actually may not worry us at all in a few months' time or years' time. Or
See, already off the bat, you've got a plan, you've got some ideas that are defined, and it's just not exciting just for you guys, it's exciting for, you know, Macy and Max. You know, it's a cool thing to be doing. All right, I think we better have a little bit of a cheers to the house.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Christmas and New Year's come and go, and it's not until the end of January that Alex and Rachel hear back from the council. And it's good news.
Well, it's really good that we've got the resource consent finally, but because it's all been delayed a little bit, Kelsey, who's our builder, he's had to find some work to do to tide things over. So that's fair enough, but it means we're probably looking at an April, kind of Easter time to actually kick things off.
With only 100 days to complete the renovation, they can't afford any delays in the work. And with the build now scheduled over the winter months, it's less than ideal.
we're hoping it's not going to be too disruptive in the house itself with the wrapping on and...
Yeah, because we're adding to the house. We're not doing any demolition as such, really. You know, there's more house going on, so there will be times when it's probably quite disruptive. But winter in Auckland, to be honest, it's not that cold, is it?
No, it could be a lot worse.
So it could be a lot worse.
Renovation is going ahead. That's awesome. Problem, they still want to stay in the house. I think it's a bad plan, so I've brought Alex down here to have a look at one that's currently underway, similar situation, just so he can get an actual feel of what the sort of state of his place is going to be. Hopefully that helps. Alex, you're already here.
Hey, Mash.
Yeah, have you had a look around?
I'm kind of worried because it's gutted.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of parallels and similarities we can draw on here of what you should expect going forward. So, do you want to have a look?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So this is, I think, where the stairs are going to be.
So, I mean, this is really good because this gives you an opportunity to see exactly how big the staircase area is in your place, because this will be pretty much exactly the same size. The other thing, of course, is if you look up, I mean, that gives you an indication about how exposed you're going to be when your roof comes off and the ceilings and the trusses come out.
What we're going to do to our house is not as extreme as what they've done here, because downstairs they've pretty much gutted the whole thing. We're leaving a couple of rooms almost completely alone, but to understand what it takes and how long it takes and what it's actually like inside your house to live with, I'm feeling okay about it. I'm feeling good.
Wayne, how are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Hamish, good to see you. Just out of interest, you've got the tent over the top. That's good, yeah?
Oh, yes. Timber's dry. Inspectors love that sort of stuff, so...
And when it rains, noise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real deafening. Yeah, it's a drum in here. So when the rain comes down, it's real loud.
Because the cool thing is Alex is actually planning on staying in the house.
The cool thing.
Yeah, I know.
Hey,
It's
cool,
like literally like camping, huh?
With builders in the mix, I don't know that's much of a camping scenario, but hey, you know, it's a brave man.
Would you stay in a house?
If I could avoid it, no. But sometimes, you know, the dollars and cents, things stack up against you. You've got to do what you've got to do to get through. Young ones in the house, you know, health and safety these days got to be taken into consideration. A lot of moving targets to nail down to, you know, the roof coming off.
We're not gutting absolutely everything, so there will be corners of our house which you could actually live in, but it's going to be really tough. It's going to be this cold or colder, and I'm quite cold now, it's late afternoon. It will be livable just for me. Not so sure about the family, to be honest.
I think I'm getting through. But he's now seen exactly what it becomes, and I think he's starting to see that maybe he wants to get his family at least out of there. I mean, it's an expensive exercise, making a house secure for a family to live in each night and then sort of make it a work site again each morning. There might be an hour in the morning, an hour at night. Time is money, especially when you're on a building project like this. Company director Alex and food blogger Rachel are in preparation to radically renovate their house, taking it from a pokey 3-bedroom cottage to a 2-storey 5-bedroom home. But it's been a long process to get from the planning stage to building.
We've got the resource consent through, which is fantastic. It means the last 2 years of thinking about it and the last 6 months of actually planning and spending all the money to get to this point are actually worthwhile. And we haven't just wasted our time and wasted our money. So it's fantastic, isn't it?
Great. Yeah, real relief.
With a tight budget, they will have only 100 days to build. So Alex hires James White as his quantity surveyor. James will not only be responsible for creating a budget, but he will also check suppliers' quotes and track payments throughout the build.
We've done an estimate.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to run you through a couple of the key points and just make sure that you're familiar with what we've done and comfortable with the number.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, there's a bit of shuffling around. We've estimated that to do the top floor extension and the renovations downstairs, you're just a tick under 400,000, including GST. That includes all the works, all the labour and material, as well as the contractor's overhead and margin, and a bit of a contingency.
How much of a contingency? Is there a standard formula to this?
Yeah, so contingency differs from project to project. Your project, there is some complexity in terms of ground conditions. We don't know quite what to expect and how difficult that's going to be. For your project, we've put in an extra 45.
So that's driven out of, because we don't know where we are at yet on how much earthworks we may or may not have to do.
That's right. It's not only under the house, but it's also, we're dealing with an existing house. So until we kind of strip the house back, it's a little bit unknown. And so it's a bit of a safety margin there.
To have what we'd done and what he came up with being so close has given me real confidence that the project's actually going to be a success. We're not going to get 3/4 of the way through and run out of money because we've undercooked it or anything like that. And we've got the right people on the team.
I've got this estimate from your builder that you forwarded through to me, and it aligns quite nicely with where we've had the numbers come out. It's nice when they come out so close.
It's very close.
It's within a couple of $1,000, but there are some differences between our estimate and the builder's estimate. There are some things like the landscaping, for example, which the builder's allowed $25,000. We've got an allowance in there for much less. We've only got a couple of $1,000 in there for some replanting of materials. So it'd be good to sort of sit down with them at some stage or get a list of questions through them to sort of understand that, because our bottom lines are the same.
Yeah.
how we get there is slightly different.
And you look at what they've supplied, and I guess those are ballpark numbers of what you should expect to pay for these sorts of things.
Yeah. I think they're hitting all the right notes.
Yeah.
So really the next steps from here is to have that conversation with the builder, to try and sort of consolidate that price into a contract.
Yep.
Prior to starting on site, it might be a good idea to have a catch-up,
Yeah.
just to see whether everybody's on the same page.
Sure.
And then through the project, we'll just touch base every, say, sort of 3 or 4 weeks,
Yep.
see how you're going, and making sure that we're tracking those costs as they come in.
Having the expertise of a quantity surveyor and spending that money, you know you go into the project with all the boxes ticked and you're not going to miss anything. So having somebody to go to throughout the whole renovation is going to be invaluable to that whole process and reaching the end and not having some kind of hideous disaster along the way or running out of money or something like that.
Before the build can begin, there are a number of key decisions that Alex and Rachel need to make, including electrical wiring and power points. And Alex is definitely keen on future-proofing whatever they install. Robert, I've brought Alex along today because he is tech-savvy, a whole heap more than myself, to be perfectly honest. We're renovating his property. It's two-stage sort of thing. So we've got a new build with an addition going on for a second story. And downstairs, we're going to update a lot of the lighting and the electrics in the property. It's an older property, so I guess, how about we kick off first of all and show Alex what's available with switching.
Okay, let's do it. I've got a few ranges in this drawer right here.
Okay.
And I've got a few more down here. And I've got a few more down here. So as you can see, there's quite a big range available. So
I think we'll be
you're pretty much sport for choice.
Yeah,
We are.
I actually instantly quite like this because it's kind of sympathetic to your old school standard white switches, but it's got a bit of a modern feel to it, yeah? And I like the USB thing, that's a great idea. I'd like them everywhere.
Guys, you've chosen the brand new PDL Iconic. It's a matte finish, which is very, very popular these days. You can do things like little optional icons.
That's actually really good because we've got, it's only a 2 by the front door, inside light, outside light. 8 years later, I still don't know which one is which. Labelling it like that, just with an icon, I think that's actually quite a cool idea.
Makes it so much easier, I fully agree, absolutely. One of the very, very clever features about Iconic was the fact that you can actually just change the skin. The item that goes in the background, which the electrician's installed, is universal to all the different colours. This is electrically safe without the skin on it. You can play around with the colours and not have to worry about any electric shock issues.
I really liked the faceplates on the light switches and the power points. So that sort of twist on what is the traditional, giving it a bit of a modern edge, that I think is spot on for what we actually need. There's a certain amount of switch gear in existing places because there are pieces of the house that we're not completely demoing, but there's a whole chunk of new going in as well. So it's trying to marry up that old existing with the new and be able to control all of that in a different way, an app on your phone, however it's done. But to what extent you can do what, I don't know yet.
So we've got two different systems that we should really look at here. So with the Iconic, we offer some Bluetooth connectivity with some switches, and this will give us not only switching and dimming via that little mechanism, but we can also connect to that through a smartphone or a tablet directly. So it's basically point to point. Now, the next step is a wireless automation solution we have. It's called Nero. So what Nero does is standard light switch on the wall. Electrician installs that little control unit there. That speaks wirelessly back to a hub, which is on your internet, and then you've got full control through your smartphone or your tablet. We do a range of these. They can do blinds, they can do garage doors, pretty much anything.
Can I have a look at the app, just to have a look at how it works?
Yeah, for sure can, absolutely. Yeah, it's real simple, I'll show you.
So you see you've got a lamp on, a kitchen downlight on, temperature and stuff like that.
Yep.
Flick the lamp switch.
That's so cool.
Turn it back on, Alex, quick. That's sensational.
You could spend hours.
Well, you could.
Yeah.
I'd get lost at switch number 1.
Well, it looks like we've found a solution for Alex and Rachel's electrical wiring. And with just 1 week to go, everything is coming together. And James comes out to check the architectural plans against the house itself.
We're looking for really the details that occasionally aren't picked up on the plans. Things like skirting boards and trims, ornate panelled doors, timber floors, underfloor heating and those sorts of things, just so that we can incorporate them in the cost estimate. Hamish, I've had a good look around the house this morning with particular attention to this little area down here, adjacent the ensuite. You know, plans versus what's on there, and I've not made any sort of detailed measures. It all looks good, but she's going to throw up a few surprises, no doubt.
That's building, though, huh?
That's building. Well, that's renovating with a sort of 1930s building.
Really good idea here. James, being a quantity surveyor, has actually gone through the plans that Alex and Rachel have settled on to make sure that what's going into the new part of the house and what's actually been specified to be done matches what's in the old house. And an easy example here is the whole rest of the house has actually got, say, 60mm high skirtings with a bit of detail in them, but what's actually been specified for upstairs are 40mm plain skirtings or something like that. Now, that means the builder, who's done exactly what he's been asked, is priced on the 40mm high skirtings instead of the ones that match the rest of the house. So you can see it's a small detail, but it can be a cost surprise that can pop up later on if you're not expecting it. By having this firm base at the beginning, it's not saying the job's going to be smooth sailing, but it should run better, and they've got a good grounding from the beginning to take on the project.
For Alex and Rachel, it's been 9 months of red tape and setbacks to renovate their 1930s home and add a second story. But now they're only a few days away from the start. With a limited budget, allowing only 100 days to build, quantity surveyor James White asked to meet myself and builder Kelsey to discuss anything that could potentially delay the renovation.
Okay, James, so you like to have these meetings first off. What's the reason for that?
I think it's usually a good idea to meet the crew and the important guys on site. Absolutely.
I know. I hope I get thrown in the important guy mix. I think the reality is I'm not doing too much, obviously, across it. I'm doing the interior specs and the exterior colours and bits and pieces. I get the fun bit. You get the hard work, Kelsey.
Yeah, that's good.
So already you guys have had chats about things that may pop up?
Yeah, look, we've had a brief chat this morning about some of the tricky bits to the build. We're going under the house. We're digging sort of 17 odd.
I like the we.
So I won't be going under the house. You know, some fairly sizable piles and a good number of them under the house, and then we're popping up upstairs, all the while the client's in the property. So I think these sorts of meetings are key, just to kind of air out any concerns that Kelsey might have, and just advise the client accordingly.
Okay, Kelsey, anything popped up that you sort of want to bring up at this point?
Not at this stage, no, early days, but it all seems pretty straightforward under there. It's just all sand, so it's easy digging, so it's not too much of a problem.
Just out of interest, I've been wondering, how actually are you going to get underneath the house?
We're just going to cut a hole through the deck and we go. Yeah.
Oh, so you don't have to go through the floor of the house?
No, just through the deck.
There's
just on
a
the
plus.
outside.
That's a plus.
Yeah, and we'll just crawl under there. We've got about 450, about that much to work with. So we've just got some little shovels and away we go.
So I guess the two of you will be liaising throughout the process with all the bits and pieces?
Yeah, I think our job is to really sort of work out the cost estimate and the overall cost, and in consultation with Kelsey, making sure that everything's fair and reasonable, and they're just sort of tracking it along the way. So any issues that are struck often attract additional money, so it's just really having a good, clear line of communication.
All right, so I guess that's it. We've caught up, we've had our little meet and chat, and you'll hear from me when we have to pick some tiles and some plumbing fittings. And James, I send you all the costings, don't I? Once we've got exact costings on which toilet and which tile we're using in square metres, so you can update throughout the process.
We'll capture that throughout the process once those decisions have been made. Yeah, absolutely.
Watch me blow the budget.
And day one of the renovation arrives.
Are you excited about our renovation starting today?
Yeah.
I am. Excited, but kind of a little bit scared as well.
I mean, we've spent years sort of daydreaming about the possibilities for the house, the options of building up. And this is it. It's actually happening. This is day one. This is really exciting. I suppose I am also a bit apprehensive just about the unknown, because anything can happen in a build. So you know, I'm hopeful we won't have any major issues, but realistic that sometimes things go wrong. So we'll see. Hi, Kelsey.
Morning, Rachel.
Nice
How are you?
to see you again.
Good to see you.
So today's the day.
Today's the day. It's all going to happen.
I know. I'm a bit nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. It's good to be nervous.
So what's going to happen first? Because I'm not too sure.
Okay, so today we're going to start under the house with some foundation work.
Okay.
So in order to do that, we're going to have to cut a bit of the deck up to get in there.
Okay.
So we'll probably cut up through here somewhere. Then we'll get in there with some small spades because there's not a lot of room under there to move. So.
Oh, yeah.
And setting out for where all the piles are going to go. And yeah, we'll work it from there.
Kelsey makes quick work of the deck, and he's soon under the house checking the ground and marking up the footings.
Oh, race the old bones. Cheers, day one.
Cheers.
So
Might
it
need something
started.
stronger than this.
So as always happens, and it's the nature of building, Alex is away.
Yeah, I can't quite believe it.
What are the odds?
I don't know. We had this sort of day one date scheduled for.
That was like a week ago, wasn't it? 2
Yeah,
weeks
a
ago.
while now,
Yeah.
and then this last minute work trip's come up, other side of the world that he had to go to.
Yeah.
Like he had to.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, it's annoying.
I know when he told me, I just wanted to laugh out loud and go,
It's-
that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But you're competent, so you can deal with it. You know what's happening.
Thanks.
And I think this is where the planning kicks in. You see, you guys have been thinking about this for a while. You've got good planning. The weather is holding at the moment. So, yeah, I think it's okay that he's away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not telling him that. He's.
Oh, no. He's going to pay.
He thinks he's in trouble.
There'll be treasure coming from overseas for the trip. I love it. So, with regards to packing up the house, you guys going to have to do some of that?
Yes, somehow we're going to have to pick it up, put it somewhere, be able to get to it,
Yep.
and live in the house,
Joy.
which I'm sort of having increasing doubts about, but we are staying put.
Do you know what? You try it out, you do it. If it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work.
Exactly.
But it is, I mean, moving out is an inconvenience. It's an added expense.
Yeah.
You know, and every week you're out is like a tap or a,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
it reduces choice and
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
And we like lots of option and choice at the end, Rachel. To be fair, I'm pretty happy not to be underneath the house at the moment. Kelsey and Nathan are under there digging out the footings. There's pretty low clearance underneath there. There's enough for them to do it safely, but it's pretty tight, dirty, grueling work. Alex is away. That's left Rachel in charge of the house. She's more than competent. I mean, Alex was going to be doing at least 50% of the project management on it. I guess we'll see. It's early days. We're kicking off, and yeah, hopefully he's here for the rest of the build. Otherwise, Rachel will be, you know, taking the reins.
Next week, Rachel and I decide on the overall design
I'd like it to stay pretty, obviously colonial.
and the reality of renovating an 85-year-old house hits,
The box is definitely older, that needs to be upgraded.
which sends their budget into a tailspin
It does feel a little bit like I'm kind of burning money.
and delays the build.
I am not happy.